Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is Under the Dome by Stephen King. Now, I actually read this book in March. Sorry it took so long for me to get around to reviewing it. It's only because I've been, really busy with schoolwork, so I couldn't really find the time to get around to reviewing this. But luckily the semester's ending now, so I can get back to doing more reviews, and yeah, so this review is on Under the Dome by Stephen King. Now, Under the Dome was published in 2009, and I'm not gonna lie, for some reason, I never really had that much of an interest in reading this book, and I've always been a huge Stephen King fan. I love Stephen King, but I don't know why, but for some reason, I just didn't really have that much of an interest in reading this, but eventually my aunt read it and said it was really good, and pretty much started hounding me to read the book, and eventually I read the book, and now I feel like a complete asshole for never having an interest in reading it, because, to be honest with you, I think this is a freaking amazing book, and, and I would probably hold it up there as one of Stephen King's best. My favorite book by Stephen King would still have to be It, and then The Body, and, then Carrie, and the Dark Tower series. Those are, my absolute favorite books by Stephen King, but, this book, I would definitely hold up there. I haven't really made, a top 10 favorite Stephen King books list, but if I ever did, I would definitely put this on there. I thought this was actually a really good book, and actually better than I thought it was gonna be. Under the Dome is about a small town in Maine called Chester Mill, and what happens is one day an invisible force field appears over the town, and nobody knows what this force field is or where it came from, but one day it just appears over the town, and now because of this force field, nobody can get in or out of the town, and the people in the town are pretty much sealed off from the rest of the world, and they can still communicate with people on the outside world. They still have access to the internet, and they can still use their telephones, but they can't physically leave the town, and what happens is eventually the United States government finds out about this, and eventually the media finds out about this, and eventually the whole country finds out about it, and eventually the whole world, and it becomes something that pretty much the entire world knows about now. And what happens is in the town, a politician named Jim Rennie, who goes by the name Big Jim in the book, he ends up coming to power in the town, and basically because people in the town are scared shitless, they pretty much turn to whoever seems to have the answers, and so they all end up turning to Big Jim, and Big Jim is essentially the main villain of the book, and what happens is the main character of the book is a man named Dale Barbara, who goes by the nickname Barbie in the book, and he's actually a former war colonel, and what happens is it turns out that the government actually wants him to be the one in charge of what happens in the town, but of course Big Jim can't have that, and let's just say that Big Jim Rennie and Barbie, or Dale Barbara, really hate each other, and but I don't want to give away what happens, but like I said, I thought this was a really cool book, and basically what happens is this force field is in kind of a dome-like shape, hence the title Under the Dome, and because of that, it starts getting polluted in the town as well, and also this book is set during the fall, but inside the town, it's actually a lot like it's actually a lot warmer than it is on the outside world, because the dome is like blocking all the heat in, so like you know, essentially it feels like summer even though it's the fall, and it starts getting polluted. Like things get like really bad in this town, and of course you have Big Jim, who is pretty much a very corrupt politician. You know, he only makes matters worse. It's a, like I said, it's a really good book. You know, and I really enjoyed it. And also in the book, Big Jim has a son, and his son is actually worse than he is. Like, his son is a complete psychopath. Like, you do find out something interesting about his son, which I will say you do feel some sympathy for him, but it still doesn't excuse what he does, though. But like I said, Under the Dome I thought was a really good book, and I would definitely recommend it. Now, in the book, there's a lot of things that could be considered allegorical to today's society. Like, you know, the book definitely has a lot of political undertones and even overtones in the book, and I can see why some people might find it to be where Stephen King is kind of almost like shoving his own political agenda in our faces. Like, personally, I don't think he is, and even if he was, I honestly don't care. Like, I don't really get offended when an author puts his or her own opinions in their work, because I know, like, when I write, I have a lot of my own opinions incorporated into whatever I write, so, you know, so I really don't care about that, but I can see why some people would find it to be where Stephen King is almost, like, shoving his, like, own agenda in our faces, but, yeah, like I said, I thought it was a really good book. I would definitely recommend it. Now, when you do find out what the dome actually is, I actually thought it was pretty interesting, but I know some people didn't like the whole explanation for what the dome really is, but I actually thought it was pretty interesting myself. So yeah, once again, that's my review on Under the Dome by Stephen King, and bye.